Hey, how you doing? All right, so this is George with Truck Driver Nation, and this right here is basically going to me be going over some questions with you guys that I don't know if it's going to help you or not, but I figured, well, I understand that I got a lot of students, and some of them are just they're not confused about what they're doing. They're just not so sure. It takes a time to get, I don't know, good at what you're doing or arrogant at what you're doing. I know, just know, I mean, you ain't gonna think about it. I mean, there's only one answer that basically fits these given questions. But so we'll go over them. So it's basically dispatch job interview, give you some questions, give you some answers. And what I was going to do is just give you some. And after that, if you have some that you want me to answer the way I would answer them, um, or the way you should answer them, because the way I answer them was, pretty arrogant because it's just a repetitive bunch of, you know, stuff to me because I've been doing it so long. So, anyways, what we're going to start out is just I'm going to give you the questions, give you the answers, and I'll just tell you the reason why. And then obviously, maybe there might be some different variations that you might want to answer because it's always going to be dependent on who the interviewer is, and how the interview is being given. Because these days, even in truck driving, we do a lot of interviews over the internet. And lots of times the companies don't even see the driver. I mean, literally, they go straight from their home straight to the truck and the trailer. And without probably never even seeing the company in some instances, it's got that odd now that, the way the world has made it kind of like this evolution. But anyways, question number one, can you explain the role of a freight dispatcher? Uh, Obviously, a role of a freight dispatcher, your job is to coordinate the movement of trucks and freight. You say, obviously, well, my responsibility is assign loads to drivers, maintaining communication between the shippers and the carriers, update the tracking systems, resolving delivery issues, and ensuring drivers comply with safety regulations and hours of service rules. And that's really about what you're doing. I mean, if for me, what do you do as a role as a freight dispatcher? Man, I'm the crossroads. I deal with everybody. I deal with the direct shipper. I deal with the broker. I deal with the driver. I handles all the problems in relation to the freight. Anything that has to be as far as getting paid. I update my system, make sure that we can keep constant track where that load's at, when it's going to be delivered, pre-planning the next load, resolving issues if they're resolvable, because there are some issues I can't do jack about. For example, if there's a truck out on the road, depending on how it's set up, I help with parts and service if they're actually a single owner operator, like one of my guys. I'd help them out, find them a tire or maybe an airbag or brake chamber or whatever it might be. And then obviously, I'm sure the only way I can ensure that they comply with the regulations is by me watching their permit books and to making sure that their hours of service on their ELD match what's going on with a given freight, because that's how I'm going to determine the next load. But that pretty much would kind of answer that first one. Next one, how do you handle a late delivery or delayed driver? Well, obviously, I communicate with driver to get accurate information and figure out what's going on. Then I notify obviously the direct shipper or the receiver if and provide a revised estimated ETA. And that's going to be also talking with a broker. I work, you just work on once you hear the story from everybody, the driver and everything, what's going on with the shipper, receiver, however it complies, like rerouting or rescheduling it if needed. My priority is I was going to just be transparency and to minimize disruptions. So I'd find out from the broker, let him know, look, this guy's going to be late. Whatever the story was, he overslept, he had a breakdown, something temporary held him up. Um, you know, Maybe he has something wrong with the freight. Maybe the freight shifted. Look, at freight shifted. He had to get back there and restack it, and all that good stuff. And then obviously, I'd want pictures and anything else that can prove as evidence because it really is transparency. With these days, you got phones, you got video and everything else. So there's a lot that you can do besides just telling a storyline. Now, what systems or tools are you familiar with for dispatching? Obviously, you described that, the different types of TMSs you worked with. That's the transportation management systems like McLeod. I have never worked with McLeod. I've been exposed to it, but I never really worked on it day in, day out. Whether you use truck stop, DAT boards, Samsara for ELD system, um, what kind of spreadsheets you've actually dealt with, communication platforms like Slack or WhatsApp for driver communication. Um, we don't really work with Slack or WhatsApp. I mean, lots of them. I mean, some of the guys I work with, like on Telegram, but most of the time, I'm just, um, running it. I mean, just calling them or sending them a text out. Some of the ELDs do have it where you can send text, but nobody really uses that. But the whole thing is to obviously just explain what software, which ways, whatever one I've dealt with, because I've dealt with a lot of stuff. I mean, I've dealt with advertising. I dealt with, different type of aggregate systems. Just whatever it is, have you messed with micro trackers, all that good stuff. So anything and you learn as far as platform wise adds to your overall ability to be more proficient and to actually meet other people's needs. Like if you're going into to their office to work or remote as a freight dispatcher. Next question is basically how do you deal with high pressure situations like a truck breaking down with a time sensitive load? I'm gonna just tell you this way I deal with it. First, I find out what the hell's wrong with that truck. And then I find out, okay, well, how much time do we got before this thing has to deliver? So by knowing what's wrong with the truck, I'm going to be able to determine how long it's going to take to actually get it back up and running. Because if the driver ain't got it done because he's the owner operator, then I jump in there with parts and service and figure out how long it's going to be before it's done. And are we going to make it still within that window? If not, then we got to get with the broker or direct shipper and find out, okay, when's the next available time that they can set up. Now, if I'm doing everything, then I now call the receiver and see when's the next appointment time that they have. We can get that truck in there and get that freight off because it depends on how time sensitive it is. But the overall thing, it says I stay calm. I gather the facts quickly, figure out where the location is, the low urgency, and the driver's condition. I rang roadside assistance or notified the customer immediately. If needed, I dispatch a recovery truck. I'll transfer the load. My focus is fast decisions making and constant communication. And that's really and truly almost even that little statement. That's about all you can do, because you're not there on the scene. All you can be is basically supportive when it comes into something like this to ensure that that driver is continually moving forward toward that given shipper or the receiver. Now, how do you ensure drivers are complying with the hours of service? That's easy enough. Look at the LD, see how long they got to go, see how many hours they're driving. So if they start to clock and they're screwing the day up, now they've burned out the 11 hours, then they're forcing themselves into another 10-hour restart. If they're doing that, then we probably have a problem. Now, on this one, it says I use the ELD, the electronic logging devices like Keep Trucking or Omnitrax. Also, the same thing goes with Samsara and all those to monitor driver's hours. Now, obviously, before dispatching, I check the available driving time to ensure the load fits within the legal limits. If a driver is close to their limit, I assign a different load or adjust the route. And that's true. You need to see how much time they got on that given day, how much time they got in their overall 70-hour cycle, and based on how fast it's going to be moving per hour, and any breaks that are going to need to happen during that period of from point A to point B based on the mileage and hours and stuff. So once you get that figured out, then you obviously know how many hours it actually got, how long it's actually going to take to complete that given load. Now, how do you plan routes to maximize efficiency? I consider the delivery deadlines, the traffic, the weather, fuel stops, rest points. I use routing tools like Google Maps, TMS systems, GPS software. I also plan for backhauls to reduce empty miles while saves time and money for both the carrier and the customer. It's your pre-planning, and you're already looking at all these things. We need to determine, well, what kind of weather we having, if we're going to snow, are there any road closures? If you can find out, because you're using Google Maps, right? But whatever is in that given picture when I'm researching it, because I'm not going to spend all day. I should bing, bang, boom, and I'm done, and they're gone. So, but if you're having a hard time with this, you definitely need to get help because there's not a lot of moving parts. The truck's in motion. Look where it's going. Look at the tolls. Tolls don't really matter, but look at the overall road conditions. Did you see something in the news? There's a bridge that's gone out, gave out because our United States infrastructure is having a lot of problems. Road construction. There's a given time of day where the traffic's going to be real bad. Anything that delays them, then that's a hindrance. That's slowing down the overall process, basically because remember you're on appointments or first come first serve. And how much does a truck weigh? You know, is the truck so light that there's supposed to be winds out in Wyoming and you can't go because there's just not enough winds? I mean, weight in that truck to keep it sitting on the ground without it rolling over. Or you're gonna have to stop somewhere up through there, like say Cheyenne or whatever, and stop there until the winds die down so you can make it across. But all these are different factors that you got to just look at as this happens. Because it's live time. I mean, you're actually running freight. And what you're going to do, not only does it predict your overall maximize the route efficiency, but also the safety for the driver. Now, obviously, how do you build and maintain relationships with drivers? Just treat them with respect, communicate clearly, give them transparency, support them when they have issues. Um, Make sure how they feel. I mean, make sure they got a voice and they want to be heard. So listen to your people, listen to your guys, and just build a relationship. Hey, man, what's going on with you today? I know you're headed da da da. Um, and just want to make sure that everything's going with you. And what you will do in secondary, they're going to stay with you. I don't want to lose my owner operators. That makes no sense. My God, if you knew how much it takes to actually get an owner operator in the sense of I sent all these leads, I got them, we talked, we kind of got to knowing each other just a little bit because they got to have trust in me. But once you get that set, just communicate, just listen, listen, and then answer. And I said listen twice because listen is twice as much as you speak. Now, have you ever had to deal with a difficult customer or driver? And how did you handle it? You're always going to get some of this, okay? And basically says, yes, I've dealt with both. I listen actively, stay professional, and work toward a resolution. For example, if a driver refuses to load, ask him, well, why? Um, Try to address concerns or reassign it. I never take things personally and focus on solving the issue. And that's the whole thing. Hell, if they don't want to go there, don't send them there. They're going to be miserable the whole time. Not like they're going there for captivity, but some people just mentally are not in the mood to be played with that day. And you just got to get it. Well, I talked to them, man, tell me about this load. If you don't want to go, well, hell, I don't want to go. Just remember, both me and you are making the money off this load because you're making it by running it, and I'm making the money by loading it and helping support you through the whole process. And but if they don't want to run it, say, let me look. I mean, what do you want me to do? I mean, because the thing is, I'm gonna try it. If I don't find nothing in 2 hours, do you want to still take that load if it's available, or what do you want to do? You got to give and take. So, and just play it by ear. I mean, once you get used to dealing with drivers, and those moments of psychosis, almost I say, are just really and truly maybe it's something in that mix of why they don't want to go there that actually is totally rational. So make sure you listen. They don't just jump the gun. Oh, you got to go. You got to go. I'm gonna tell you, like a driver, I ain't got to go shit. Dude, I'm the one driving the truck. If you want to go so bad, you come get it and drive it yourself. So keep that in mind. Show respect. These guys deserve it. They sacrifice a lot to move this freight. Now, what steps do you take to ensure on-time delivery? Like anybody else, I confirm the pickup. I confirm the drop-off. I like literally call them. Hey, is that pickup going to be ready? Are you expecting, and for the drop-off, are you expecting this load to come in on this given date? And plan routes to buffer time. Some drivers are going to dig it. Some drivers like, I'm going this direction, and that's the way it's going to be, whether they're burning more fuel or not. But you don't want to get them on a bunch of back roads where it becomes more tedious and it wears you down. A two-lane road will literally wear you out as a truck driver. Um, Anyways, you need to monitor the live tracking with that ELD and stay in constant contact with the driver. Also prepare for unexpected delays by identifying alternate routes or backup drivers when needed. Now, for the most part, I deal with over-the-road drivers, so there ain't really no backup drivers. But definitely accommodate their needs because if they can't make it with the trailer and it's a multi-tiered type of company where you can bring in a trailer to exchange trailers, then definitely do it. But make sure, remember, that other truck has to be profitable too. So you can't just you know, make sure the driver understands if somebody comes against that trailer and you're here, you're losing this much money on that given load when you thought you was making this much money. So I'm not saying push them, but make them understand the situation clearly and transparently. So when it happens and they get their settlement, they're not getting all pissed off, and now you're having to fight with them about their paycheck. And obviously, I don't work in the accounting department, so. Next one's going to be, why do you want to be a dispatcher? Now, basically, if you're asking me why I want to be a dispatcher, it's problem solving. I mean, I work under pressure. I don't let it get to me, but there's pressure there. Even if you don't recognize it, there's pressure there. Now, obviously, dispatching allows me to play a key role in keeping freight moving smoothly and effectively. I'm passionate about the transportation industry and help others both drive and customers succeed. I'm probably more passionate about the drivers than I am the customers because I was a truck driver, but I don't want to see the guys getting done wrong. And if I can help them out and give them advice and tell them what I know that's going on outside that truck, because they're trapped in that little world of that truck, and that's the truth of it. But, if I'm giving them the right information and, following up with them on things, sometimes it helps me as well. Like they'll refer people to me. Hey, you want somebody that's actually going to help you and give a crap? Give George a call. And then obviously I pick up the ball. I see if I can assist them, see if we can work something out. If so, then we move forward together. Now, so here's some bonus things that you need to think about. Um, what are deadhead miles and how do you minimize them? Obviously, try to keep your freight moving. Try to don't just shoot your truck into a bad area. And deadhead as low as possible. Keep yourself at a whatever because you don't want it to be more than 5%. But make sure you know where your truck is going. And wherever you remember, always call the shipper and the receiver and make sure everybody's on the same page about this load. And communicate with the driver. Find out where he's at, what's his ambition. I mean, because he might want to go out of route because he wants to go eat somewhere that's kind of not real bad out of route, but it may be 40, 50 miles out of route. Who knows? But he's paying for the fuel and it's his truck. If that's what he wants to do, you really don't have a lot to say in it at that point. But always be assisting them as much as you can, even though you're not in that truck driving it. Now, how do you handle multiple stop loads? You need to make sure that they're being timed right because this is LTL. And then once you do that, or do you have something else to slide it in that spot if necessary to keep that gross revenue up on that truck? But if not, and you think it's good enough for what it is, the driver's happy with it, then let them run it out and get rid of it and then schedule another load. Try to schedule ahead of time because remember, they got multiple stops, they got 4 stops. How's that going to affect the overall end game where they can be at the final delivery on time and still make it to the next pickup if you're stacking loads? Now, what do you do if a driver misses a pickup window? Now it's saying pickup window. So what was the pickup window? And then when you get ready to reschedule it, who you want to talk to? So, and that's all you really can do. Just be patient, be cool. If it wasn't rational for why they missed that pickup window, then that issue needs to be addressed. But anyways, you got to play some of these by ear and it'll work out. It ain't nothing magical. It'll work out. You just got to stay on top of it. Are you comfortable working after hours or weekends? This is logistics. I'm not saying you're going to have to work after hours, all this stuff, but I'm so used to it. I'm used to expecting this outside the normal hours. And sometimes it literally kills me physically, but that's part of the job. So if you're going to be in logistics, don't expect everything to be 9 to 5, Dolly Parton style, right? Make sure you remember that sometimes it takes more effort to do this job that sometimes feel like you're benefiting. But that's the whole point why we say people in logistics and transportation are a very unique breed. We do what's got to be done until we get it done. And don't complain and cry about it. And ain't nobody going to say thank you and good job. But anyways, that being said, that just gives you a couple of highlights. If you got questions, or anything like that, contact information is below. Get it to me and I'll give you some answers. But this kind of gives you an idea of some of the questions that are going to be asked of you if you're going to go to work for a carrier in general. So just kind of get in your head. This ain't nothing you really got to particularly study. This is like assistance type of information. Ain't part of no course or certification or nothing, but this is to let you start thinking about these type of questions that somebody's going to want to know from you. But that being said, I appreciate your time. I hope this helps. Please go to Truck Driver Nation. If there's anything you need, make sure to visit the video store back there in the back. We got lots of content. If you're a student with Truck Driver Nation, you get whatever you need for free. There's a form back there you fill out and get it to me, and we'll get those videos to you. But outside that, I appreciate it, and everybody have a great day, and I'll see you at the next subject.